This is Diana Sullivan in Austin, Texas. It's just about a week before the start of the 2025 online machine knitting seminar. And why am I sitting here with a pile of sweater pieces? Well, I'm doing one whole session on Raglan sweaters, and this is a little teaser video showing some of the things I'll be teaching. So here's the back. Here is a sleeve and another sleeve. And in the video today, I am knitting the front. So I'm going to show the mock rib hem and putting a single motif pattern on. I have a furry kitty in the middle of the sweater. Then I have the armhole decreases, the technique for dividing for the neck, and then I have the neckline decreases and the armhole decreases on the raglan edges, which happen at the same time. I knit one side of the neck and then the other. I'm encouraging people to knit a sweater. Maybe they've never knitted one before. Maybe they just haven't knitted one in a while. And this one is fairly easy. It is a raglan sweater, and I am putting a little cat in the front of the sweater. The front has straight knitting up to the armhole, and then it has decreases at the armhole, and then it has raglan. It also has neck shaping. I have already made myself a little cheat sheet that I can follow that shows exactly what row to do all of my shaping, and I have it handy. I'm going to begin by casting on 50 stitches, and this is for a mock rib hem. I'm bringing out every third needle. I'm going to start on waist yarn, knit a few rows with waist yarn, and then I'm going to make the hem. You can either use ravel cord at the end of the waist yarn, or you can use the technique that I'm going to show. I'm hand feeding some light blue yarn, knit my first row, putting on a clothespin, putting on a comb. This happens to be a weighted comb, but you could also do a comb and a weight on each end. Now I'm putting in the other needles so that I have two in work, one out of work, all the way across for my mock rib hem, and I have to knit a few rows with this scrap yarn. It's not uncommon to have a little difficulty with the end stitches knitting through. For my last row, to avoid using any ravel cord, I'm just going to do a loop on this end. The actual mock rib hem is only 7 rows deep, so I have to knit 14 rows so that I can fold it up. It is doubled because it's a hem. To pick up the hem, I'll remove my hardware, including this comb. I like to use a 2-stitch transfer tool for picking up a mock rib hem that is 2 by 1, like this one. I'm going to pick up this first loop and put it on the right stitch of a group of 2. And then this longer loop I will fill in the empty. Now, I can save myself time by bringing all of the needles into work, lining them up, and then opening all the latches. Makes it a little quicker to pick up a hem. So each time I pick up the 2 loops on the 2-stitch tool, I pop them on the rightmost loop of a pair of 2 and the empty needle. Now all the empty needles will have a loop on them, and the rightmost needles in each group will have 2 loops. The leftmost needles in each group will just have the 1 loop that was already there. Before I proceed, I must change the tension to the garment tension, and I also need to hang weights. Because of this curly waist yarn, I like to put a comb on over the curly waist yarn. So I'll use that comb again. It kind of sticks up and gets in the way of the carriage. And the comb will hold it down. And I have 1 more loop at the end. Let me get that. I like to even up my needles, which of course makes the waist knitting roll up and stick out even more. But I'll put the comb back on. That covers it, holds it down a little bit. Okay, now I go to garment tension, row counter 0, 0, 0. And I am going to knit to row number 54, just knitting plain. My comb fell off. That happens. Put it back on. Now, after about 5 rows, I'm going to begin the pattern. I didn't want the cat at the very bottom, but right here is a good place. I have already programmed the machine with the little cat, and my first step is going to be to pick out the needles. I'll go outside the turn mark and put on the pattern selection. And it is putting the cat right in the middle of the work. Then I press the Fair Out button, the MC multicolor key. Just for fun, I'm putting a tabby cat. I've got some gray chenille that's pretty fuzzy. So that's going to be my Fair Isle color. For this to turn out well, I have to wrap. You can look at your book and it'll show how to do that. But basically, you need a long piece of matching background yarn. I've got some pink that's very thin. I like thin yarn for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this yarn over a needle on this side just beyond the rest. And then I will knit the next row. Now this is my last needle that is selected, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this other end of this piece of yarn, and I'm going to hook it right beside the last needle that was selected. I don't select that needle, I just hook it there. I'll use a clothespin to hold that end down as well. And what's more, I'm going to throw a clothespin in the center to hold this whole string down. That way it'll be just well behaved. That sounds good, doesn't it? And from here, each row I have to wrap on the carriage side. In your manual, look for the single motif instructions, and that will be the ones to follow for doing this wrapping business. this little string is going to make a long float, so I'm running it over a few needles on my way back. This is the last row of the kitty, the end, folks. So I'm just going to wrap this needle and hold that down and go across. Pull this up. And it starts the first row of the cat again, but we only want one cat. So I'm going to push those back out of work. I'm going to cut my fuzzy yarn because we've completed our cat. Now, I mentioned earlier that I have to knit to row 54. I'm only on row 36, so I've got to do some more knitting before I can shape the armholes. So I'm turning off patterning entirely, and I'm just going to knit straight on up to row 50. I'm interrupting this technique for a very quick announcement. Starting in July, I am doing another online seminar. It's a great value with many new patterns over 5 afternoon classes. Attend sessions live or watch them later since they are recorded. We'll have a private group where we can get to know each other, and we'll post the class videos, handouts, and patterns there. Click on the link for the details and do come join us. On row 54, I do armhole decreases. Now this will go better with a weight where the decreases are going to be. And I have decreases coming up on the other end, so why not put both weights on? I have taught this method of bind off for years. This gives you a beautiful edge that has a chain, and it's a very nice finish for your armhole shaping. There are plenty of other ways to do it that are pretty good ways too, but this is the one I'm doing this time. I have to bind off at the beginning of a row. Then on row 55, I'm going to have to bind off there as well. The shaping is either every 2 rows or every 4 rows, so my first shaping will be on 57. I've made myself a list of what to do on each row. And my list has the row counter number, and then it has what to do at the armhole and what to do at the neck. Before I can start all that kind of shaping, I have to divide for the neck. And this particular size, I divide for the neck right away. And the way I divide for the neck is not the way shown in your book. So when I am on row counter 55, I'm going to go ahead, knit 1 row so I don't have to pick up double stitches anywhere, and then I'm going to divide for my neck. I'm on row counter 55. I'm going to take this thread out of the feeder. Row counter 56, excuse me. I'm turning off the row counter tripper, and I'm grabbing some waste yarn. I have this dark pink, this will work fine, and I'm going to knit a few rows with scrap and take off all the knitting. After I do that, I'm going to hang part of the knitting back on so that I can knit one side of the neck at a time. So I'm dropping this knitting off the machine. I did not cut that yarn. I've counted out 21 stitches, and what I should be on is the second stitch from the center. I'm going to leave 2 stitches in the center. All these ones beyond that, I'm not picking up. And the reason I'm picking up this side, which is the left side of the sweater first, is because I have an end of the yarn over there that I can keep knitting with. I'll put my machine on the left because that's the direction it's going to come in. And I'm going to hang my 21 stitches. One stitch per needle. This is just really simple. I am making a child size. The pattern in this seminar has all the baby and kid sizes for standard and bulky. And then I have a whole bunch of women's sizes, I believe all the way up to a 48. I have to figure out what not to put in a seminar. I tend to put in everything, but I'm pretty sure this is what we're going to have in our finished handout book. So if you can make this little child sweater, you could make any raglan. Every one of the techniques is about the same. You could choose different hems, of course, and you could choose different necklines and different decorations. But you can definitely make a raglan. You could also get an interesting yarn that would have some kind of pattern in it. But keep in mind that then your raglan seams will not match pattern-wise. Okay, now I'm ready to knit one side of the neckline. So I'll thread the machine, and I'm going to turn my row counter back on. It still says 56, and my first decrease will be on 57. I'm going to put weight on each end to help it knit off. So I'll knit across and then do my first decrease. So over I go. My first decrease is a neck decrease, and it's going to be with the 2 and 1 tool. And according to my cheat sheet for my size, I don't have an armhole decrease right now. My first armhole decrease will be a double, and it will be on row 59. So I have to do 2 more rows. 58, 59. Now I can do a double decrease on the armhole. This is just for this size. They're not all alike. And I can do a single decrease on the neck for 59. My next decrease is on 61, and it's neck only. 60, 61, neck only. Now when you're doing little bits of knitting that are off center, make sure you hit your row counter every time. On 65, I'm going to do a double decrease on the arm, plus a single decrease on the neck. And I can just be calm and happy because I figured this ahead of time with my cheat sheet, which I can use again on the other side of the neck. My next decrease, I'm on 63, my next one will be 65, neck only. And my next decrease will be on 67, arm and neck. This is one of those rare occasions when I could have used a 2 and 3 transfer tool, isn't it? That's all right. Not in any kind of hurry. And then my next decrease on 69 is no decrease at all. So I'm going to go all the way to 71, 68, 69, 70, 71. 71 is neck and armhole. Neck. You have to keep in your head This side in the middle of the sweater, that's the neck. This side over on the side is the armhole. Now you might think this is really stupid for me to point this out, but I've gotten mistaken myself a few times. My next one is on 73 and it's armhole only. 72, 73. What's happening now is I don't really have enough stitches left to do the bigger decreases. So I'm just doing singles. It'll be fine. And then my next one will be on 75 and it will be armhole and neck using this little tool. And you see now things are getting so narrow, I'm going to have trouble using the 2 stitch tool. So then I go to 77, and one of the things that I should point out is I have much too much weight on here. I'm taking one off. That's 76. 77, we're going to do armhole only, and I'm going to do the 2 stitch. And then 79, we're getting rid of everything. I'm calling that 2 decreases, but basically you put 1 stitch on top of the other, and then you knit through, and then you cut the yarn, but leave some yarn for sewing. Always leave yarn for sewing if you're in doubt. Now, what do we have here? Let's get this off. We have half of a neck, and I still have to do this half of the neck, and I'll do that next. And you might think, oh, the patterns always say do the other half of the neck, reversing shaping. Well, my system is to say to myself neck and armhole, and now my neck is going to be on the center here. So it'll be on the left of this little piece I'm knitting, and my armhole will be over here. No problem. And I need to pick up 21 stitches. And what I could do is I could pick them up over to whatever the number I was on, but since I'm not patterning, I could also start here. The 2 center stitches don't get picked up. That's just the way that I wrote these patterns. You don't pick them up. They're going to be used later for the neckband, and you'll see different things on different patterns, but this is what I did. When I do a seminar like the one coming up, I need things for beginners, and I need things for old hands. And interestingly enough, the experienced people always find good things mixed into the beginner stuff, because we all do things a little differently, and they say, oh, look at that way Diana does things. Why does she do it that way? And they might adopt it, or they might say, I like my way better. At the same time, the beginners get enough information to knit a successful project. So this particular seminar is a little bit on the beginner side, because I went ahead and did everything main bed only. The knit club that's sponsoring asked me to do that. Now, as you will recall, when I did the other side of my neck, I started on row 56, and I'm just going to move my carriage over, do a free pass, and then set my row counter back down to 56 because I want to use my cheat sheet. And 56 was a row with no decreases. I've got a decrease on the armhole. The armhole decreases for a while, or 2 stitches at a time. Okay, I'm on row 57, and these armhole decreases that are 2 stitches, I have to do this. Use a triple transfer tool, move over by 2, take 2 needles out of work. Okay, on my neck on 50. Oh no, 57 did not have an armhole decrease. You get to see me fix this. See, I need the cheat sheet. I make lots of rookie mistakes, but I'm going to fix it. I won't leave that mistake. I'll just fix it. Agreed? So, no decrease there. I'm going to have to adjust that tension a little. But I have one at the neck. That's just a 2-stitch thing. Okay. Now my next decrease is 59. 59 on row 59, 2 at the armhole. Armhole's over here. So 2 out of work, 1 at the neck. My next decrease row is 61, and it's neck only. Neck. The neck decreases are onesies. My next decrease is 63, and it's armhole and neck. 63. By the way, I am looking at the row on the counter. When the counter says 63 already, that's when I do it. So yeah, technically I'm about to knit row 64, but I count it as 63, which agrees with the row counter and is simple. I like simple. My next decrease is 65, and it's neck only. Neck only. My next decrease is 67, and it's armhole and neck. That's row 67 on my counter. Here's my, oops, my armhole's the big decrease. The neck is the little decrease. My next decrease is on row 69. Nope, no decrease on 69. My next decrease is on 71. So, 8, 69, 70, 71. 71 is 2 at the armhole and 1 at the neck. Now, because this piece is getting quite narrow, we're going to get away from doing 2 at the armhole at all. You'll see. That's going to be my last double decrease there. My next decrease is on 73, and it's armhole only. I'm using the 2-stitch tool. I could have gotten away with the 3, but that's fine. My next one is 75. 75 is neck and armhole, and I can still use the 2-stitch tool here, and I can still use it here, but things are getting really skinny to the point where I should reduce the amount of weight. Let's only have one weight. And we will go to row 77 and do armhole only. Okay, that's row 77, armhole only. Row 79, neck and armhole, but you know, there really are only 2 stitches here. So we'll just double these up. We'll knit through them using the machine to do it. Cut the yarn with some yarn for sewing. I have knitted my front. I've got a couple things left to do. My center 2 stitches, which are on the waist yarn, I'm going to put those on this little safety pin style knitting stitch holder. It's a hand knitter stitch holder. I have these, and I like them for when I only have a tiny number of stitches just to secure. Then that means that I can unravel and wind up this yarn, put it in my waist yarn basket for my next whatever. I was very concerned that this cat might not be enough embellishment on the sweater, but I thought I'm just going to go with it because the sweater is only 50 stitches wide and the cat is big. Being 24 stitches on a 50 stitch wide sweater gives me a pretty good sized kitty. Now I need to remove this waste yarn. I used the loop method, so if I get this piece of the loop that is the closest to the knitting, I can pull on it little by little. I can get that out. I didn't have to bother with ravel cord. Not that I mind using ravel cord. It's just one of my little tips and tricks. This was a really long piece at the end. I just didn't feel like cutting it. There we go. Okay, my next step is to put a knitting needle, the only one handy. All my hand knitting needles are downstairs, and I'm upstairs, but I have this one handy. I brought it up for some hem or other. Big old wooden needle. I'm just going to pull on that and pull my mock rib hem into shape. Your knitting machine pulls things narrow. Okay, now I got my mock rib hem. I got my little kitty cat. She looks a lot like the little kitty cat of the child for whom the sweater's knitted, so that's pretty nice. And I need to do some seams and I need to put the neckband on. So I hope you'll join me for the seminar. I have a lot of other sessions, but we're blowing a whole session just on Raglan sweaters, and I'm really looking forward to that.